I'm here in the lovely city of Delft, and right behind me is the town square. And in 1527, there's a procession going on, a religious procession, a Catholic procession into the new church. And there's a man out there preaching. He's a young man in his mid-20s, David Joris. He's gotten caught up in the Reformation. The Lutheran writings have come and are shaking up the Netherlands just like they are the rest of Europe. And he is quite excited. So he's preaching against this procession, and they arrest him. They have him whipped, and they bore a hole in his tongue with a big old metal or iron ball, piercing of the day. And that's to keep him from talking. Banished for 3 years. He comes back. He gets a little more radicalized in that he becomes an Anabaptist. And the Anabaptists, during the Reformation, were the fear of everybody, because they were reopening the scripture on every single question, from polygamy to obviously water baptism to violence. Should we enforce the kingdom through violence? And that was attempted, as many would know. So he gets involved with them. It's very much an eccentric. He calls himself the third David, King David first, Christ the second David, and himself the third. So he's a little bit full of himself, I think. He has a following. He's quite influential. He's an avid writer. About 200 pamphlets come out of him. He's very allegorical in his view of Scripture. So him and Menno Simons don't like each other. Menno Simons accused him of being a compromiser because they would not hold to the strict Christian disciplines that the other Anabaptists were. And he calls Anabaptists just a literalist. And so his following, though, does have martyrs. His own mother dies, either in Haarlem or here. I've read both accounts. So he ends up fleeing to Basel to hide. He disguised himself as kind of a nobleman from the lowlands and lives there for many years, becomes, quite well known, celebrated kind of guy, quite an intellectual, but he doesn't allow himself to be known for who he really is. Once his wife dies, he dies 3 days later, and then his son-in-law, a couple of years later, which is really opposed to him, exposes him for who he was. They dig up his body and have it burned at the stake. He didn't escape the flames ultimately. So anyway, an interesting figure from the Reformation here in Delft. I just thought it was a little bit colorful and interesting, so hope you enjoyed that. God bless.